Okay, so get this right. We're diving into, you guessed it, public temper tantrums.
Because who hasn't been there? Right. Like, you're in the checkout line and suddenly it's showtime. But fear not, dear listener, because guess what? You sent in some research on this. 5 tips for handling temper tantrums in public. And let me tell you, you are onto something. And to help us really unpack all of this, we've got an expert, someone who lives and breathes child development. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so your research, it jumps right in, right? Stay calm, acknowledge their feelings. Sounds easy enough on paper, but in reality, yeah, not so much.
So what's the deal? What's the science behind these, deceptively simple tips?
Well, you have to think about what's going on in a child's brain during a tantrum, right? Their amygdala, the emotional control center, it's basically gone haywire, totally flooded with stress hormones. And honestly, it's not about them being intentionally difficult. Their little brains are genuinely overwhelmed.
Wow.
And that's where you, the calm adult, come in, you see. You become this external regulator, helping to soothe their overstimulated nervous system.
So we become their emotional support system, kind of.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
But what about actually, how do we acknowledge their feelings, especially when, let's be real, those feelings seem, well, a tad irrational?
I think a good way to think about it is you're not giving in to the tantrum. You're giving your child the tools to understand and manage those feelings, right?
Yeah.
So instead of saying, you're fine, stop crying, you could try, I see you feeling frustrated right now.
Okay.
It's okay to be frustrated, but we don't hit.
Right, right.
It's about validating their experience, naming the emotion, which can really work wonders in calming that amygdala storm we were talking about. There's this great phrase, name it to tame it, coined by Dr. Daniel Siegel.
Name it to tame it. I love that. Okay, that's actually really helpful. You've given me a whole new way to think about these meltdowns. So another tip you found was about changing the environment, getting them out of the situation.
Which makes me think, sometimes you can't always just whisk a kid away. And that, my friend, leads us to, drum roll please, consistency.
Which, let's be honest, is way easier said than done. I mean, am I right?
You're telling me. But here's the thing. Consistency, it's not about being a robot. It's about creating a predictable framework. Kids thrive on routines. They need to know what to expect. So when you establish clear boundaries, right? We don't throw toys, but you can tell me you're angry.
Yes.
And then, crucially, you stick to them, even when it's the last thing you feel like doing, you're actually teaching them valuable life lessons.
It's like we're not just stopping the tantrum now. We're giving them the tools to handle big feelings in the long run. I love that.
Exactly.
And speaking of the long game, your research, it also mentions positive reinforcement.
Oh, absolutely. It's so easy to get stuck in that negative cycle, right? The yelling, the timeouts.
Right.
But celebrating the good moments, it's just as important, if not more so. You see your child use their words when they asked for a toy. You acknowledge that. Hey, I noticed you used your words. That was great.
Oh, I like that.
These little things, these little acts of positive reinforcement, they go such a long way in shaping positive behavior. It's not about showering them with praise for every little thing, but really highlighting the behaviors we want to see more of.
I have to say, this has been so helpful. It's like I came in clueless, and now I have a toolkit.
So to everyone listening, here's something to think about. We now understand the why behind the temper tantrum, right? But how can we use that knowledge to set ourselves up for success before we even leave the house? Think about it. Until next time, happy parenting.